Hello there. This is Barbara Wash with the Department of Medicaid Services. How are y'all doing today?
Hi, Barbara. This is Terry Skaggs. I see Jeremy and Jay and several on the call. I was just
Yes.
making a few notes at this, uh, kind of waiting for everything to start, but I did hear that the recording had started.
hmm And I'm still
Um,
clearing the waiting room.
okay, we'll give it a couple more minutes.
Okie dokie.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So Terry, it is 11:01 and it looks like our waiting room is clear.
Okay, all righty. Welcome. I know it's been a while. I see on the minute or on the agenda that it was June of 23 when we last met. And I know there's been a lot going on in long-term care between then and now, but much of that work has been done directly with cabinet officials as we have updated our rates and a number of other things over the past couple of years. Don't have the minutes in front of me. I'm sure that we did receive a copy of them back then. If anybody on the committee would like to go ahead and make a motion for the approval of the minutes, uh, we'll do that without a reading or an immediate review. Everyone okay with approving those minutes?
So moved.
All right, thanks, Jay. Anyone else out there?
This is Janine, I'll second.
Thank you, Janine. Okay, so we got approval of the minutes. We'll move on to new business.
Hi, Terry, this is
Yes,
Erin. I don't want
I'm,
to step in really quick. I'm sorry. Janine, do you mind to turn your camera on while voting? I
Oh, sure.
apologize. Thank you. Sorry about that.
not a problem. First item on our agenda is the clock's modernization level of care prior to admission. Recently, one of our members actually reached out to us and had noted on the clock's website that there were pretty significant changes coming to the level of care process that would require it prior to admission. We've got lots of concerns on that. The information that is provided by the hospitals, prior to admission is very limited. And we have a fear as we're moving toward implementation, I think later in September, that this is going to have an impact on timely acute discharges and on SNF admissions. It is definitely going to delay the process. I'm going to kind of throw it out to Jeremy Bishop. He is with our state association, has kind of been following all of this and probably can speak to it better. And I'm going to apologize in advance. I've got two real estate closing this week. One closed yesterday, one's supposed to close today. So my head has not been in prepping for this meeting, but I think Jeremy can step up and speak to the issue. Jeremy, if you don't mind me throwing it to you, I would appreciate it.
Sure. Thanks, Terry. And we obviously there's Clocks is going through a complete modernization process. We were first brought this, as Terry had stated, from our members in very early July as it came out. And I believe the Clocks newsletter #2 was kind of the first inkling of hearing about this directly and what the impact would potentially be on it. As we kind of worked a little bit further and talking with our members, we recognized that there's some barriers that are likely coming into place. And we immediately reached out and engaged with the Clocks administration team to better understand it and how we might be able to work and effectively find a way to path forward. Unfortunately, it sounds like most of those things were put into motion and are in a process that really at this point in time we've been advised cannot be stopped. So as of September 29th, so the biggest change for us is the level of care applications. which previously the skilled nursing facilities, when they were getting a transfer or an admission from an acute center, would have had a few days to be able to submit and wait for CareWise to do the MET on the application for the admission itself. That grace period is no longer viable, and now the level of care application has to be marked met before the admission to a skilled nursing facility. It's our understanding that the primary driver behind this implemented change, it came from the TAC from a federal level to bring Kentucky into compliance with PACER, and PACER being completed in the facility prior to admission to the facilities themselves, and not directly around the level of care itself from those meetings. So with the current process, the admissions allowed before the level of care is finalized, CareWise completes their review, and then the person is able to be able to move forward. The new process removes that flexibility with that level of care and PACER being completed prior to admission. So the concerns that we have are that that our biggest concern is the fact that the hospital partners right now have not really been directly engaged in this, and it's going to have a major impact to them and how they operate and do business. In our meetings, we've heard the the standardized process of, discharges should start at admission and planning on that, and we are not in disagreement of it. It's just that the messaging is being shared to the skilled nursing facilities and not to the acute centers, which are the ones that have the ability to potentially make a change or follow best practices. I think the real world, we have a mismatch with that, where most of the hospitals, or a lot of times we see discharges that are the same day or next day. And those are not going to be viable for being able to move people out of the acute centers into the skilled nursing facilities. We do not have any control over the acute discharge planning process, yet we're being told that we're going to be the ones that are going to have to basically enforce it for them. And ultimately, the impact is going to create unnecessary hospital days and delayed access to skilled care, likely by 2 to 3 days in most of these circumstances, if not longer. The other systemic issues, I believe that clocks in the modernization effort are making strides to make the system of clocks work for this. However, we do have concerns. We haven't seen how that's going to work, and also in the processes itself. One of the issues are that individuals in the acute centers should be able to have referrals to multiple nursing homes and be able to make the choice of which nursing home if they're accepted to go to. It's not uncommon to see a resident or a patient in an acute center change their mind on the last day. Now that's going to cause another additional 3-day, it's going to cause a delay. And then systemically, if they're not able to systemically discharge the facility who thought they were getting them doesn't systemically discharge on a timely basis, it's our understanding that in the new clocks processes, they would have the ability to be able to initiate or identify the transfer need and be able to send the communication. However, it's our understanding that they have, I believe it's 14 days to be able to execute that. So we're questioning upon how that could impact us as we have the person assigned to one facility versus another facility, and then that could cause additional delays in that. So our ask at this point is really, and our concerns are really that the fact that we understand and know that this is going to cause issues. We also know and understand that we do not have any way around it in our sense. Our acute providers, if this is really about PACER, the other piece of it is, and we're wanting to be PACER compliant, which we completely support and agree with. From that side of it, if we're wanting to be PACER compliant, the skilled nursing facilities are asked to complete the PACERs. However, think about it from the perspective of, we don't know these residents. Many times the information we have on the resident has come over to us by what was provided by the acute provider. Not as common, but we still receive faxed referrals, which means that we're going to make a determination on that individual on the PACER based upon limited information. So I'm not sure if we're actually the best candidates to be completing a PACER on an individual that we have never met, as far as not just compliance, but also getting out of it the end result of what the PACER was put into place for. I do know that other states utilize different processes. and have different individuals that execute the PACER. Multiple states utilize the acute centers, knowing that they have had the individual for multiple days, generally have seen the patient, might have had contact with the family members, and have a better understanding of that. Other states have a balanced approach where they have both skilled nursing and or acute centers can do that. I just think that we believe that there may be better ways that this could be executed to achieve the same goals without causing delays in transfers and moving the processes for hospital bed days from acute care to skilled nursing. So I know I said a lot, but I'll stop at this point.
Well, I appreciate it, Jeremy. Just to kind of echo on the one biggest concern that I have is that, hospitals are wait till the last day. I mean, we're usually maybe 2 days out at the most in getting a referral on these residents. And even if we start a level of care and the PACER on them, once we complete it, it's our understanding that that there are that the reviewer has 3 business days. A lot of these referrals come in on Thursdays and Fridays, and there's not 3 business days, prior to getting them in on a weekend that they would still be in the hospital until the first of the week until we get the met response from the reviewer with clocks. I guess at this point in time, I'd like to throw it out if there's anyone from the cabinet on who can, speak to the issues, potentially, give us some thoughts and ideas on it, because we do feel like that there will be delays in getting folks out of the hospitals, and our hospital partners are not engaged at this point in time, and we need to walk through the process with you, so we wanted to bring it up.
Thank you, Mr. Skaggs and Jeremy, for speaking this morning. My name is Alicia Clark. I am one of the assistant directors within the Division of Long-Term Services and Supports, who oversee the nursing facilities. And, I've met with Jeremy and appreciate everything that he has definitely brought to us and said, we're listening. One thing that I would say, we've heard you be concerned about the hospitalizations and, those being extended. And what we're doing is we have actually drafted a memo is what I'll call it, that is currently being reviewed for the hospitals. And we're hoping to be able to get that approved and get that out. I know that I've told everybody, please share with a lot of nursing facilities do have connections to people they work with at the hospitals. And I've told them, please share everything that we've sent you all far and wide. But what's another step that we can take? And so we've been working with our BHDID team on this memo. And once, if it gets approved or whatever, to send out, be more than happy to send whoever wants a copy of that. If it's this TAC, can send that out to you all as well, so that you all know what we are providing to the hospitals. As far as the PACER, Jeremy, I know that we kind of talked about that a little bit. I think you were going to send us some maybe recommendations. We're always looking at ways to, enhance our processes here. We want discharges, admissions, everything to be successful with you all as well. I'll be honest, I don't know why PACER was set up for nursing facilities to do it way back when. I think Jeremy said it's always been like that, as far as he knows or remembers. And just because we've done something one way doesn't mean that it's always the right way, right? What are other states doing? What can we take? What can we learn? And how can we move our process forward? So definitely, if you all have recommendations, we can take those back, look at the other states or whatever, and then, try to make a good decision for everybody involved on that. And Jeremy, and if you've sent me something, please let me know. I don't recall seeing something about other states, but if I've missed it, definitely please let me know.
I've got quite a bit of it put together. I don't have
Okay.
all the states yet, so I was just waiting until I had a complete document, but I will
Okay.
be able to get that to you for review on that end of it to look at how we might be able to make changes going forward. And I do appreciate that. And the more expedited the drafted memo can get approved and or not approved and notified, the better, because the generally that's going to take some time to get to the right people in case management. And it's going to take some time for them to process it and ask questions and see it. And I just don't want my members and our providers to be the ones that are having to educate them on this process and change, and ultimately, be seen as the individuals that are no longer allowing them to operate in the manner in which they've been accustomed to at this time.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that supportive letter can mean a lot, and and engaging with potentially with KHA, the hospital association, maybe to help you in that dissemination might be another consideration that you would make to help to reach the right partners in this process to make it as smooth as possible.
Most definitely. And is Nancy Gallivanti still
Yes.
over that? Okay.
She
Perfect.
is. She is.
Okay. Yeah, and again, we will always take recommendations, especially even after people get in the system and start using it, and they're like, hey, it could do this or this, we definitely want to have the best system, right? And I know that sometimes when we do put things in, for one, it's scary for you all, it's scary for us, and because we want it to work perfectly. And sometimes there are bumps and hurdles, right, that we've got to work through. But any information that your providers come back, provide you all, definitely willing to take a look at that, look how we can enhance the system in the future. Whatever you all have, definitely bring it our way.
You mentioned there a moment ago the facilities having good relationships with their hospitals, and I can speak to both rural facilities and urban settings. Most of our rural facilities that we have worked with over the past, they have a single referral source, and yes, they've got excellent communication with that referral source. I don't know that that will improve everything due to the fact that a lot of times that doctor at that referral source walks in on Friday morning and says it's time to discharge. But on the other hand, here in Owensboro in particular, you've got a single hospital that probably services 10 or 12 nursing homes over a 3-county area. Everybody gets the same information at the same time, and they're vying for that patient or that resident at that point. That open line of communication has got to come from the hospital somehow to get that information pushed out correctly. And I can't overemphasize. I know Jeremy asked that you expedite the letter as soon as possible. Well, somehow we've got to communicate to the hospitals that this isn't just a nursing facility issue. It is going to impact them if their procedures don't change and change as quickly as we're trying to change ours. So I'll just throw it back to you.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear what you're saying, and that's why and I had Melissa Swartz from BHDID join our meeting today, just in case if anybody had specific PASAR questions and understanding, federal requirements. But again, we as the state need to ensure that we are complying with requirements too. So that's why, some of these changes have been made. But I'll follow up with my management about the letter and to see, and definitely, I'll do my best. I'll provide it to everybody that I can. Nancy Gallivanti, I'll provide it to you all. You all can give it to, your case managers within the nursing facilities. If they do have those good relationships with those referral sources, please have them, send it out to everybody, because I think I would rather people receive it 4 or 5 times than 0. So even if they get tired of emails, at least they've received it to be prepared.
And we can support you in helping to amplify the message. We just don't want to be the primary method of delivery for it.
No, I
Absolutely.
understand. I understand.
Absolutely. Janine, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Are you aware of any, I know you work in multiple states. Are you aware of anything in other states from a PASAR standpoint, policies in other states that, you might share? And no is an okay answer. I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Be honest, Terry, I don't get actively involved with PASAR in the other states.
Okay.
Usually when I'm involved, it's from a mock survey perspective or something like that. So I'm not really looking at the detail, but I can certainly look into it and get you that information if you would like.
I know Jeremy's working on it as well, so he may have already gathered information that you would be duplicating. So
Okay.
I'll leave it there. I think Rhonda is on the call as well. Any thoughts, Rhonda, on other states and how they're handled there? I thought Rhonda was on the call. We may have lost her. Okay. Any other comments from members of the TAC or from the cabinet? I mean, we feel it's a very critical issue. Obviously, we've got a very short time, about 26 days, to get this implemented. And I think since we're at the 11th hour, it potentially is not going to be a smooth transition. So, I appreciate everything that you're working on. And, again, we're just looking for ways that we can not back these residents up in the hospitals due to the process potentially taking 3 business days to get approved prior to coming in. Because I'll just tell you, from an operator standpoint, we can't afford to lose 2 to 3 days of non-coverage just because of a piece of paper at this point. So, other thoughts, Jay?
Is there a way to get any kind of a grace period here? Like for 90 days, we allow people to have a little grace on the timelines there.
Good question.
I mean, I know everybody wants to move to this model, and that's fine, but if it creates such a problem, it just seems like it would be in everyone's interest to try to smooth it out by allowing some grace during the transition phase.
To my knowledge, I don't know that the way our system is that we can do that. Can definitely take that back, take it to management. And I will tell you, for the level 1 PASAR that does not trigger a level 2, there are 3 business days. However, just to kind of brag on the UN vendor, they're getting those done within 2 business days. So they are getting those done even quicker because they understand the priority as well.
And I understand that, but I'll throw it back to those doctors all walking in on Friday and wanting to get them out the door. And all of a sudden we've got, multiple referrals coming in. Even if we started everything and completed the paperwork, that's potentially Tuesday before that resident is admitted. And again, I think it's going to create some significant burdens on the hospitals, and we don't want to do that. We want to be a good partner with our hospitals and make sure that we're getting everything done timely so that they're getting those discharges timely and we're getting our admissions.
Understood.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other comments on it? I appreciate you taking the grace period back as a potential consideration. I think that's an excellent comment by Jay.
Yeah. And I will state that Alicia and the team have been since we were made aware and engaged in the process, they've been communicative with us and also willing to listen and do things. It's just we were not, from an association standpoint, engaged at a point in time whenever decisions were being made. So now we're picking it up from the back end and trying to assist. So I do appreciate the collaboration there and the willingness. I just want to make sure that was
Thanks,
done.
Jeremy.
Yeah, and I will echo the fact Jeremy keeps me updated as the reimbursement chair for our association, and all the communication that he's had with you, he has shared, and I do appreciate your willingness to work with him, and hopefully we can get this resolved to the satisfaction of all parties involved. All right, anything else on clocks? The next item on the agenda is the Medicaid retroactive coverage changes in the Big Beautiful Act. Big Beautiful Bill Act, or whatever they're calling it. Obviously, in that act, and I think we've got a little time on this, but we do have a change coming from a 90-day look back or a 90-day retroactive to a 60-day for traditional Medicaid. And our concern there is that claims are not, or validations or certifications, I'm trying to think of the term, are not being done timely at this point in time. Thank you. Are not being done timely at this point, and this is going to tighten the crunch even more for us taking those residents into the building. I mean, there are multiple reasons for the delays. There's information that is inaccessible, et cetera, et cetera. And again, I'm going to toss it to Jeremy. He's put together some information, and he speaks much more eloquently than I do. So, Jeremy, if you don't mind stepping up and discussing this.
Sure. Yeah. So in essence, our concern is basically this, as Terry had stated, Medicaid typically can go back up to 90 days retroactively on an application for a determination, and the facility can be paid for that. So if we have a Medicaid pending individual, it gives us some time for the processing of the application and for that to go through to be able to ensure that they meet the qualifications and the facility can be paid for the care that they're providing to the resident and themselves. So from a federal standpoint and the federal requirements, it's 45 days to process most Medicaid applications and 90 days if there's a disability determination that's required. And in the federal requirement states that the application must be processed promptly and without undue delay. And failure to act on that allows for triggering fair hearing rights that the facilities and the individuals that are impacted by it can have on that. And the retroactive is currently limited to that 3 months prior to the application month. As we move forward with HR 1 and its implementation, and we reach the end of 26, as Terry stated, that traditional person will now go from a 90-day retro to 60 days. So it's shaving it down to 30 days. And if they're a expansion population, that would even get shorter down to 30, which isn't as impactful for the skilled nursing environment, just to be upfront. On the 60-day, though, our concern is the fact that a lot of applications right now are currently not able to be processed and determinations are not able to be made within a 90-day time frame. And what that leads to is ultimately providers from the skilled nursing world caring for Medicaid eligible or or individuals who are applying for Medicaid with no guarantee and of being paid for the services in which they're rendering. I completed some surveys for the prior year and just have data on 60 facilities, which is really just a small portion of the 270 that exist across the state. And just on the over 90-day time frame, we had close to $1 million written off among those 60 homes. And when you really expanded that out and looked at it where deviations were put in place from going beyond or other things of that, we had on those homes close to $3.7 million in write-offs. So we know that this problem already exists and nursing homes have an understanding of that. And we're working with the Department of Medicaid and DCBS to try to find ways to help But as this gets constrained even further and we move into 26 and closer to the implementation and the timelines being tightened up, we do have concerns that the processing and timeliness of the processing may be even of more concern, and it could have an impact on our providers' willingness to accept anyone who does not have a full-fledged Medicaid application that's been approved with a determination. Medicaid pendings, we cannot afford to continue to provide care and not be compensated for the care that we're providing for the individuals themselves. Technically, under Kentucky requirements, there is 60 days if a disability determination is required, which is actually stricter than the federal 90 days. So I guess as we come to you today, we're really looking at, some questions that are kind of out there for us is, that we would be interested in is what is kind of the current average and median processing time for long-term care Medicaid application? What percentage of those applications are really exceeding the state standards and the timeframes on that end of it? And how often are those delays attributed to external entities, such as out-of-state verifications or court orders and things that are within or outside of their control? Because we understand that special circumstances can be made at time to time where payment can be rendered for beyond those 90 days, but it's typically only by department error or issue. And ultimately, the nursing home can't compel a pension fund or a railroad pension from out of state to provide a document on a resident. But ultimately, they're the ones that are providing the services and not getting paid for. And then when the person does ultimately end up as a full-fledged Medicaid eligible individual with a determination saying so, the nursing facility in our mind should be able to be paid for those days in which they had no ability to know if a home was going to provide or not, or I mean, if the pension or out-of-state entity was going to provide or not provide that information on it. We're still providing the care. We're still loving for and taking care of these individuals. So I guess those are a few of the things that we're interested in seeing how can we partner on this to be able to get the Medicaid determinations down to a reasonable time frame so we don't experience bad debt and our providers having to look at Medicaid pendings and honestly no longer be able to accept them until a determination's been made.
I think on this, we're looking for collaboration to make sure that the process is, I guess, tightened and in place so that when we go from 90 days to 60 days moving forward, we've got everything in place to ensure that these determinations are made timely and that I'd like to see the day one of these days when we don't even have to use the 60-day or the 90-day look back period because everything has been processed. And, if there are exceptions that are needed on, as Jeremy indicated, court orders, out-of-state entities that just refuse to give information, that we get all that in place so that when it is implemented, we're ready to move forward. Any discussion there?
Did we lose our connection?
Well, I guess I'll ask another way. Is the state looking at this point, preparing for that reduction in coverage moving forward to the end of 26, early 27?
So Terry, this is Barbara from the Department of Medicaid Services. I can bring this back to management
Okay.
and get an answer for you.
Okay. Jeremy's got a nice document. I'll ask him to provide to you that basically asks these questions and hopefully we can get answers to the questions that Jeremy brought up.
Yeah,
That would be great if you could share that with me, Jeremy.
certainly, Barbara. And, we're bringing this up now because we feel like we have the ability to be able, we've seen the great things that come whenever Department of Medicaid and the really state entities partner with us and the
Mhm.
association and the providers, and how we've been able to do great things and really in short time frames. And we prefer to kind of bring this up now where we have about 15 months to be able to actually make systemic impacts and things that we know are going to take changes and going to require some reviews, and to know that we're willing to be good partners in this and work with them in any way, shape, or form. It's kind of the unspoken contract that we take care of these most fragile of the population
Yeah.
with the state in that sense. So we're happy to do that. Barbara, I'll share the kind of this one pager at the bottom. It has a few questions that help guide us on kind of where things are now to give us kind of a baseline, so we can understand if we have progression, digression, or how we may move forward, and what impacts if we are able to implement things. Currently I'm working with DCBS on reviewing those out-of-state entities and seeing if that list can be updated. We're having discussions about inaccessibility and how that looks and some other areas. So we're already trying to help an impact here, but we are interested in understanding kind of what is the state kind of working on currently, if they are, and on where the current standard is set, so we can understand that baseline to give us something to judge how we progress and go forward. So Barbara, I'll be happy to email you this right afterwards.
That's great. I just put my email address into the chat.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Jeremy will get that information out to Barbara, and hopefully we'll get some responses. We're looking to obviously work with you to reduce delays, to strengthen any follow-up protocols that need to be changed, and then just to prepare for those upcoming federal changes. We've got I think it's going to have a significant, or has the potential for a significant impact. And fortunately, we've got time, and we can focus on what needs to be done collaboratively to make sure that our bad debt situation doesn't go up, and that facilities aren't looking at delaying admissions due to an individual not having Medicaid coming into the building.
Yes.
Anything else on that? Lost an ink pen somewhere. I'll pick another one up. Any general discussions that need to be brought up before the TAC, or recommendations? I'm just going through the agenda. MAC meeting representation. I know in the past when we have had TAC meetings, usually the association staff person, which would be Jeremy or me, would prepare a brief report to go before the MAC. Again, we haven't met since 23, so there hasn't been a report going to the MAC, but we will make sure that we have representation. I think I've got those meetings, the schedule of those meetings on my calendar, so we will make sure that there will be a representative to share what we've discussed today at the next meeting. I did want to make note. I literally just noted that November 20th is actually our annual meeting with our state association. We will all be in a hotel in Louisville. Not sure if we can pull a TAC together on that. So if there's a possibility of us rescheduling that meeting, that would probably be good, especially if we're getting information back, especially on the retroactive coverages and all of that. So
Okay.
right now we'll leave it noted, and then Jeremy and I will correspond with you regarding some potential alternate dates to that.
Okay. I would appreciate that.
All right. Anything else from the committee or from our associates or our folks at the cabinet? I guess hearing none. We'll consider the meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.